Alex here with a legal nuts and bolts video on emergency appeals. A viewer asked me if this was a thing. In Nevada, it is a thing. It's in the Nevada Rules of Appellate Procedure as to how you go about triggering an emergency disposition in your case. If you need a decision within 2 weeks, and that could even include asking for a decision within like hours, I've seen people do that, then you need to attach very specific language to the front page of whatever it is you're filing in the Supreme Court. That could be an appeal. That could also be a writ petition. If you don't know what those are, watch the video on writ petitions. Once you attach that emergency language to whatever it is you're filing, usually you will get a response within that amount of time. If you don't get a response within the amount of time, I'm pretty sure 100% it's going to be denied, and they're just taking their time to deny it. Otherwise, you will either get a denial very quickly, or you will get whatever it is you're asking for very quickly. I didn't want to mention the specific language that you have to put at the top of the paper or pleading, because that specific language could change. It's not even a statute. It's just a court rule. It could change very easily. So what I want to tell people is if you want to file an emergency in your state, an emergency appeal of some kind, look into your statutes, rules, and case law. It's probably going to be in your court rules. Look into those and find out what you have to do or how you go about making sure that your appeal or writ petition is resolved as quickly as you need it to be resolved. You do have to put a basis for the emergency, of course, and in Nevada, they caution people that if you abuse that privilege, that you'll be sanctioned, which could include a fine. If you're an attorney, it could include like a disciplinary action, up to and including being declared a vexatious litigant. That doesn't apply to attorneys, though. That's just if you're a non-attorney and you keep abusing it and the fines aren't holding you back, they could potentially have you declared a vexatious litigant. So I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I personally have never filed an emergency appeal in any of my cases. I have seen a few other people that I know file them, and theirs were denied, but they were denied very quickly. So if anyone here has a personal experience with emergency appeals, whether it succeeded or failed, go ahead and post it in the comments below. I think this is just a thing that people just needed to know existed so that they can look into it if they need some kind of decision reversed very quickly or challenged very quickly. One last thing I mentioned, and this is just almost a guess, I'm not sure, but when you file an appeal, it takes quite a few days for that case to transmit up to the Supreme Court of Nevada. It may be the case that if you're trying to get relief like on the same day or the next day, that you may have to file a writ petition, which again I mentioned earlier in this video. I have a separate video on. Please watch that video if you don't know what that is. You may have to file a writ petition because that may be the only way you can get a case opened up in the Supreme Court, at least in Nevada. As I mentioned, with appeals, you don't file them in the Supreme Court. You file the appeal in the district court, and it transmits up to the Supreme Court. But you do file original writ petitions directly in the Supreme Court. So for people who are trying to get relief within like a day, 24 hours, you may have to look into seeing if that's the way you go about it. I've looked into the case law, and I have seen references to people filing writ petitions that might not ordinarily be appropriate because you're supposed to do an appeal, but they needed emergency relief. And I wonder now, having read that, if that's something that the Supreme Court was saying because those people needed relief within hours and they knew that an appeal wouldn't transmit up there quickly enough. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end this video at this point, and I will see you guys next time.